Hey guys, we're going to go ahead and start our lab on pancakes. So I'm just finishing up washing my hands to get started. As you know, in lab, you're going to have your aprons on, your hair tied up in closed-toed shoes. And of course, you'll be wearing your face mask because there'll be more than just one of me in the classroom. So since we're all going to be together. So this week we're doing pancakes. So it's really important for you to complete the video demo. So that way when you're in class for Thursday or Friday, depending on what letter you are, we're going to go ahead and get started right away. This is a one-day lab, so you'll be preparing this whole dish and eating on that day. So when you come in, we'll have our groups arranged for us and you'll begin. So who's ever head chef, once everyone gets started with washing your hands, you're going to grab your red tray and then you're going to fill up your red tray with your measuring tools that you're going to need. So remember that measuring basket that was in the cabinet, so make sure you grab those. For this particular lab, you're going to need both of your liquid measuring cups, and last but not least, you're going to need one bowl. When your team is ready, who's ever in charge is the one person and only one person from your group is going to come up and measure all the ingredients that you're going to need for this lab. Okay, so here we go. We're going to get started. On your recipe, if you haven't looked at it already, but you're going to see that you have flour and sugar. It says 2 cups of flour and a half a cup of sugar. Those particular items are in your kitchen. Okay, so you're going to go above your sinks and you're going to grab the flour, you're going to grab the sugar, and you're going to actually measure that way. So we're going to kind of put that to the side first. The next item that your supply manager is actually going to be measuring is 1/4 cup brown sugar. So we're going to have our brown sugar out. You're going to find your 1/4 cup measure. Okay. You're going to go ahead and measure your brown sugar. And because brown sugar is so dense, you're going to make sure that it's packed into your measuring cup. And then you're going to level off. It might be a good idea that you would have a butter knife as well to level off. And I might remind you that of lab, that'll probably be easier for you. So we have 1/4 cup of brown sugar, and we're just going to leave it into our measuring cup and leave it on our tray. The next item is 1 tablespoon of baking powder. So some recipes that we're going to call for is going to say baking powder or baking soda. But this particular one, we're making pancakes, so we want our pancakes to be fluffy. We want them to rise. So that's why we're going to be using baking powder. It kind of gives it that powdery look. That's how I kind of remember it. If you were using baking soda, you'd want it to spread. So we're going to be using baking powder. It says 1 tablespoon of baking powder. So you're going to go over your measuring spoon. If you look at the lid, it has a straight edge on it. So there's no reason for you to use anything else besides the actual ingredient. You're going to actually level it off by using that straight edge. So that way you have exactly how much you need. And you're going to use your small tins to place it in. The next item is 1 pinch of salt. Oh, I forgot my salt. Darn it. All right, magically we have our salt in hand, so we're going to go ahead and keep going. But we have 1 pinch of salt, and just as it says, we're going to place it. I don't think it's going. Yeah. And we're going to go ahead and pinch it, and we're going to put it right into our baking powder mix. There we go. Okay. The next ingredient says 2 eggs, and we're going to actually put our 2 eggs in our liquid measuring cup for right now to hold it, and I'm going to show you why in just a second. We're going to use 1 1/4 cup milk. So we need to, again, look at your measuring cup. It's just as simple as reading it. So you're going to use 1 cup and 1/4. Now a lot of times, because we have the 2 cup measuring cup, people just go and just look at numbers really fast and not pay attention, and they measure like 2 1/4 cups. So they don't measure enough, and they just remember or try to measure 1/4 2 times. The trick is you just have to make sure that you're reading it properly. It is 1 whole cup and 1/4 that you're trying to measure for milk. And just with every liquid, you're going to keep it on a flat surface, and then you're going to measure to make sure that you have enough. So we're going to go all the way up to 1 1/4. Okay, so we're going to make sure by kind of keeping it at eye level And it's good. And then we're gonna go ahead and put it on our tray to take it back to our kitchens. Last but not least, our vanilla, 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. So again, you're gonna go ahead, find your measuring spoon, measure out 1/4. Place it in your small tin that you extra have. You have 2 in your kitchen. And you are ready to go back to your kitchens and prepare the dish just as is with your team. Okay, so now we're back in our kitchen. So your supply manager is going to take this tray back to your group, and then whoever your assistant cooks are going to take over and go from there. So remember I told you that your flour and sugar bins are in your kitchen. So that's what you're going to have to do as soon as you get back, or while your team is waiting, they can do that as well. To start us off, it said 2 cups of flour. So again, you're going to need your measuring tools. You're going to measure out 2 cups. And again, it's always a good idea to level off, especially when we're baking things like this, to make sure we have enough. So this is 1 cup. And this is 2. And then the last item says 1/2 cup of sugar. Keep that separate for a second. And our 1/2 cup of sugar, same thing. We're going to measure it out. And make sure we have enough. We're going to actually keep our sugar, just like our brown sugar, in the actual measuring stuff, or we can go ahead and put it into our bowl that we already had onto our tray, because we're going to use that at a separate time, separate location. Okay, so the trick is for the homemade pancakes, the direction says that we should sift our flour. Okay, so that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to sift our flour. There's going to be these 2 items out on lab day. Both of them are going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. Okay, so let's sift our flour. Okay, the first one I'm going to show you is just using the strainer that you have. This is a strainer, not a colander, 2 totally different things. So we have our cups of flour in there. We're just going to grab them, and then we're going to go ahead and just kind of sift it through to make sure that our flour has been thinned out and it's ready to go, light and fluffy for our dish. So that's one way to sift flour. Just going to keep tapping it through. Again, we want light and fluffy pancakes, so we're going to do whatever we can to get that. It also kind of collects the flour that maybe is a little bit bigger or not so, not going to blend easier. Okay, we're going to actually use our sifter now. And it does similar things. We're just going to crank it. And again, it's just making our flour nice and thin. So these pancakes are from scratch. And we're just going to keep going. So we have it all out. All right, so our sifted flour is ready to go. And now we're going to go ahead and combine our items. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to stir our dry ingredients together, because that's exactly what it says, to sift and then stir the dry ingredients together. So as far as our dry ingredients, we're going to just go down the row. We have sugar, so we're going to add that sugar, and our brown sugar. Not coming in. And then our baking powder and salt that we had. And that is it for our dry ingredients. We're just going to stir it around to make sure it's well blended. I'm just kind of chopping away because of our sugar clumps from the brown sugar. It's very dense, so we just want to make sure that we don't have large clumps in it. And it's still nice and fluffy and airy. It'll be wonderful. Okay, now it says to go ahead and mix our wet ingredients together. So let me grab another bowl. As far as our wet ingredients, it goes just our milk. So we're going to add our milk. Then it says our vanilla. And then last but not least, it's going to have our eggs. Now, as far as the eggs go, I recommend that you crack your eggs in a separate container because you can end up with a bad egg at all times. And if you have an eggshell that falls into the eggs, it's a lot easier to grab it from a product that you already see than it is if it's lost in the mixture that you've already done. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and crack our eggs. And our eggs can actually sent into our compost container, but for this we're just going to go ahead and throw them away. So we have that. And then our eggs can be added to our liquids. Okay. Now we're just going to stir them up, and it's easier to stir up because they have the eggs in there with just a fork. You can use your whisks that are in your kitchen as well, but your whisks are a little bit big for this small bowl. I want to make sure that it's mixed well. Get a mess over here. Okay, and once they're mixed well, we're going to kind of make a well in the middle of your dry ingredients. So you're just making a small kind of hole in the middle. You're going to pour your liquid right into the middle there. And then you're going to combine the two and just stir it till it's well blended. So again, even now you can still use your wooden spoon or whisk at this time. Once it's well mixed, we're going to get ready for our griddles, and I'll show you how those work in just a second. Okay, so each of your kitchens will have their own griddles out for lab. This particular one that we're using today, or the one that you're going to actually be using, are pretty much the same. This is the heating element, and then each of them have a dial on the end for you to adjust the temperature. So once it's plugged in and you start turning it on, 350 to 400, I would say try to stay to around 350. And it starts getting hot right away. Most of them are non-stick surfaces, but however, some of them have been worn out for a long period of time, so it's not going to hurt it on this particular item if you just spray it with Pam really quick before you start putting your pancakes on. So we're just going to put a little bit on there just to make sure that they're not going to stick incredibly a lot. The only thing that should be on, or the only thing that you should be using as far as a tool, is the spatulas that we have in the kitchens. Do not use your knives, do not use a fork, because you end up scratching off the Teflon, and then of course it's no longer working, or it's not using the non-stick properly. Okay, so our batter is ready to go. So we just kind of stirred it. And what I'm going to use is just a half a cup of measure, just to help me out, to make sure I kind of have a good solid size pancake. Now you have a griddle for a reason. You should have more than one pancake at a time cooking. Okay, a lot of times we're like, oh, we have our one pancake, and then everyone just stands around watching the one pancake. We're kind of on a time crunch, don't forget. So we want to load it up. If I was at home, I'd probably put at least 6 on there, but for right now I'm going to do 3, just so you can see. And again, these were from scratch. It's not the mixes with just add water, so it's going to take a little bit longer to actually bake. Just kind of keep going, I guess. And then once your batter's on there, it's just kind of a waiting game to see when it's ready to be flipped over. So we're just going to give it a few minutes. We're actually kind of waiting for the bubbles on top of each pancake. Once it's filled with the bubbles, it needs the air to release it because of the gases, so it's just going to flip it over and start baking it on the other side. So we're just going to wait a few minutes and we'll see how it comes out. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and flip them. As I don't know if you can see really well, but there are a lot of air bubbles that have just popped on there. I kind of took a peek. You just kind of lift up one, just kind of look underneath, making sure that it's a little toasted on one side, and then you're just going to flip them over and keep going until they're all done. Okay, so we're going to keep going to make sure that they're all turned over, and keep baking on the other side. Okay, so as they keep toasting, they are done. We're going to go ahead and stack them up for our pancakes. And then we would bake the rest on our griddle while we were still in class. Once we're done, so let's say the lab is over, we're gonna make sure that it's turned off. We're gonna make sure that you unplug it and it's safe. Once it cools down completely, then you're just going to take your rag or your sponge and then wipe it down that way. Do not take this and submerge it into the sink like a regular pan, because it's not. It's a griddle, it's electric. So this particular appliance, you just kind of wipe it down once it cools down, because obviously if it's not cooled, it's gonna sizzle back up at you and you can cause yourself to get a steam burn, and that's what we don't want, okay? All right guys, well, I'm gonna share our pancakes with some teachers and staff and let's see how they like it.
Hi there, see, I'm sampling the pancake that was just freshly made. Now I'm going to taste it. Now this right here, you can't beat it. Try it at home, you'll love it.
Okay, I'm about to try a pancake.
I'm in the field.
It's really good. Really good. It's fluffy. It's kind of sweet. I don't even have syrup on it, and it's good. So you know it's good if there's no syrup on it. That's really good. You should try this at home. Wait, hold on. I feel so awkward. I'm going to talk with my mouth full. I can't wait to try it when you guys make it in class.
Fagan's homemade pancakes. Delicious. You should try them.